Good evening. The name of my project is Exploring the Relationship Between Eastern Mysticism and Modern Physics. So for my project, I looked at the works of Fritjof Capra, who wrote The Tao of Physics, Ken Wilber, who wrote Quantum Questions, and Michael Talbot, who wrote Mysticism and the New Physics. And these are three modern philosophers that all have their own unique perspective and take on the relationship between spirituality and physics. And for my project, I will offer you a summary of all of their different perspectives. And for the sake of this video, we'll do a super summary just for the sake of time, but I will attach my paper below in case anyone wants more details. So let's start with Capra and Talbot, who are both enthusiasts. They both say that mysticism and physics do lead to a similar worldview. And I will start with Talbot because he offers a very original and specific perspective on this topic. So to begin, Talbot is famous for his holographic universe theory. He says that the cosmos, consciousness, and mind are all holographic. Every single part of reality contains the infinite part of everything else. The part contains the whole. And he compares this to Indra's net in Buddhism, which is a cosmological model that says the universe is like an infinite string of pearls in every direction, and every pearl is a mirror reflecting all the other infinite pearls. So in a single piece, you can see the infinite whole, just like in his holographic model. Even more specifically, Talbot goes on to suggest Tantra as an ancient branch of quantum theory, which is a bold claim, and I feel really excited about these points that he makes. So he mentions that in Tantra, the theory of matter is that everything is made of nada and bindu. Nada is vibration and bindu is point. And he goes on to compare this to the wave-particle duality of modern physics. He then gets even more specific, and he describes the Akashic field, which is an infinite cosmic field in Tantric cosmology, and it's penetrated by the hairs of Shiva, which are lines of force that expand and contract to create matter and form. Within the hairs of Shiva are Shiva Bindu, which are points of collapse in which matter is sucked back into the Akashic field. So Talbot goes on to compare the hairs of Shiva to Wheeler's theory of quantum foam, in which there are electric lines of force weaving through space-time. Further, Talbot compares Shiva Bindu to mini and macro black holes, both of which are points of collapse or puckers in space-time that suck in matter. Talbot also mentions the observer effect and says that the observed and observer are actually the same thing, that we are participators, we are not just observers. And he compares this to the tantric concept of prakash matra, I hope I said that right, which means the dissolution of the duality between I and this. So to go on to Capra's The Tao of Physics, I'll start by saying that the points made in this book are a little bit more broad and general. Maybe even cliche. And one of the first points that Capra makes is that both quantum physics and Eastern mysticism both share a worldview of quantum interdependence. So there's a Buddhist sutra that says, the universe is realms upon mutually interpenetrating realms, all of which interact and influence each other in infinite, complex ways. So this is a similar picture that we get when we look at quantum entanglement, which shows that the subatomic world is a series of interrelationships that impact each other even at great distances. Next, Capra goes on to explain that quantum physics and Eastern mysticism both reveal a world of paradox and a world beyond opposites. So in Eastern mysticism, we've all seen the yin and yang, and even in Buddhism, it said, as a fact of pure experience, there is no space without time, no time without space. They are interpenetrating, which sounds very similar to the fact that space and time are two sides of a single phenomena, as well as energy and matter. We also have wave-particle duality, particle superposition, as well as the paradox between the discrepancy between quantum physics and Newtonian physics. Capra also points out that both Eastern mysticism and modern physics reveal a dynamic, flowing universe. All schools of Eastern mysticism have a focus on movement, flow, and change. Also, when we look at physics, either from a micro or macro perspective, we see that all particles are vibrating and moving as waves. We see the universe is expanding. Nothing is really static, and actually everything is a dynamic dance and movement. So now that we've covered Capra and Talbot, we'll go on to Ken Wilber, who is critical, maybe even a little condescending. He has some hot takes. He very plainly rejects that mysticism and physics lead to a similar worldview, and he actually believes that that type of statement is detrimental to mysticism. So his book, Quantum Questions, is a collection of essays from the world's most famous physicist. And through all of their essays, we find this consensus that physics does not confirm nor prove or offer support for mysticism. It is worth saying that all of these physicists that are in his book are actually self-proclaimed mystics, and they are educated in Eastern mysticism, yet they still say these are just totally two separate subjects. So Wilber does admit there are some similarities, but when they occur, they are either accidental or totally trivial compared to the vast and profound differences between them. He says the only real similarity is that they're part of the same reality. Also, in typical Wilber fashion, Wilber says that mysticism transcends and includes physics. So physics doesn't include mysticism, but mysticism does include physics. He adds that conflating mysticism and physics can actually bastardize both, that we should not confuse earthly, finite truths with the infinite, eternal truths of mysticism. He also adds that many of these claims that New Agers use, as he calls them, are incredibly and ironically very reductionistic. He says that we should not try to reduce God down to a particle or down to quantum physics, because God would actually be so much more than that. God would be beyond the particle. Lastly, Wilber finds it very important to add that there is a danger here in conflating physics with mysticism. He worries that books such as the Tao of Physics will confuse lay readers and give them the incorrect idea that studying physics can lead to the same type of enlightenment as an arduous spiritual practice. So that's just a summary of these three books from renowned scholars who speak on the subject of Eastern mysticism and modern physics. And just to close out, I want to restate my intention with this project, which is to support myself and other people in sustaining this dialogue between physics and spirituality. I also want to add that I think there's a lot of room for interpretation in this relationship. I appreciate that Capra and Talbot are more poetic and open-minded, and that Wilber is more cautious, and I believe we need a dose of both moving forward with these studies of physics and spirituality. On a more personal note, I feel hopeful and excited. I am especially excited about the implications of fractals, holograms, space-time, and quantum entanglement, and what they might reveal or help us understand about mystical experiences. I also just want to give a shout out to all the mystics who had keen enough awareness to discover the nature of reality, especially the tantrics that had such astoundingly similar insights to quantum physics. So I do think that there is something here, and I do like that Wilber reminds us to move forward with caution and to not merely conflate the two. And really, I think that any subject can help reveal divine radiance, because I think that God or that essence is emanating through everything. So I choose to hold that poetic perspective. I like to romanticize things. Anyways, I hope this helps, and I hope that you find this enriching. And yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Take care. Bye.